Ray Liotta, Samuel L. Jackson, Burt Reynolds. In the early 2000s, Grand Theft Auto was running one of the biggest casts in entertainment. Real Hollywood movie stars, voicing a game about stealing cars and robbing banks. Then Rockstar got rid of all of them. The games didn't flop. Rockstar wasn't broke. They were making a fortune. They walked away from movie stars on purpose, and every game after that got better for it. Which, on the surface, makes no sense. Here's the part that really doesn't add up. After Vice City in 2002, the story goes that Rockstar swore off big names. 2 years later, San Andreas had even more of them. The real answer runs through a screaming match over a single scene. A phone call somebody left on speaker by accident, and 2 cousins from the same LA neighborhood who ended up voicing 2 of the most famous characters in the whole series. By the end, you'll get why the most valuable voices in a billion-dollar franchise are the ones you'd never heard before you picked up the controller. It started with GTA 3 in 2001. Frank Vincent, the guy from Goodfellas and The Sopranos, Michael Madsen, Mr. Blonde himself, playing Tony Cipriani, Kyle MacLachlan straight out of Twin Peaks. Back then, hiring a real film actor to voice a video game was almost unheard of. Games used whoever was cheap and around. GTA 3 walked in and cast it like a movie, and it worked so well it set the template for everything after. Then Vice City turned it up to something nobody had seen. In 2002, Rockstar handed the lead to Ray Liotta, the star of Goodfellas. Liotta voiced Tommy Vercetti, the first fully voiced speaking main character in the whole series. Around him they stacked the booth. Burt Reynolds as the sleazy developer Avery Carrington, Dennis Hopper as a porn director, Gary Busey, Danny Trejo as the gang boss Humberto Robina, Luis Guzman, William Fichtner as the sweaty lawyer Ken Rosenberg. This was not cheap, and it was not normal. For a minute there, Rockstar had built something that looked less like a gamecast and more like a film festival, but behind the glamour, it wasn't going smoothly. According to Jacked, David Kushner's book on Rockstar's early years, Ray Liotta was difficult in the booth. And here's the part that stuck. He got unhappy about his pay once he saw how huge Vice City became. He'd voiced a game that sold in the tens of millions, and he felt his deal didn't come close to matching that. A movie star doing the math on a hit, and not liking the answer. Hold on to that grudge. It comes back later. Then there's Burt Reynolds, and this one got physical fast. Reynolds and Rockstar's Dan Houser clashed almost from the jump. By one account of their first meeting, Reynolds got right in Houser's face and told him, quote, "There's going to be 2 hits here. Me hitting you and you hitting the floor." That was the opening. Later, in the booth, during a fight over how to play one scene, Reynolds went off again and yelled at Houser to get the limey out of here. Limey is an insult for a British person. Houser wrote the entire game, and a movie star was screaming at him to get out of his own recording session. Houser reportedly came close to cutting Reynolds out of Vice City for good. So the obvious ending writes itself, right? The stars were pricey. The egos were a nightmare. So Rockstar swore off celebrities and never looked back. Except they didn't. Because the very next mainline game, San Andreas in 2004, was the most star-stacked GTA they had ever made. Samuel L. Jackson as the crooked cop, Officer Tenpenny. James Woods, Peter Fonda, Chris Penn, Ice-T, David Cross. It was the biggest voice cast the series had ever put together, and it was loaded with names people knew. But look closer, because what Rockstar did here was quiet, and a lot smarter than Vice City. They kept the famous faces, they just moved them out of the lead. The star of San Andreas, CJ, the guy you spend the entire game being, wasn't a movie star at all. He was a total unknown. So why would Rockstar hand their biggest role to a nobody? The story of how they found him tells you almost everything. His name is Young Melee. Real name Christopher Bellard, a rapper from Los Angeles who grew up around the Crips, in the exact world San Andreas was built on, and he got the lead basically by accident. He was working in New York when he got a call from DJ Pooh, a producer already deep in with Rockstar. They were just talking about rap beats, normal shop talk between friends, for about 15 minutes. What Melee didn't know was that Pooh had him on speakerphone, in a room full of Rockstar staff, Dan Houser included. They sat there and listened to him talk, not audition, not perform, just be himself. And that was the audition. Pooh kept the speaker a secret on purpose. He told Melee afterward, quote, "I wanted everything to be natural. I didn't want you to put too much on it. I wanted you to be Melee." For one of his real auditions, they had him read lines from the movie Menace to Society. A few weeks later, the lead in the biggest game Rockstar had ever made went to a first-time actor, and because Melee came from that world, they let him rewrite dialogue so the slang landed the way it really sounds on the street. He later said the script was thicker than the Bible. and some sessions ran 14 hours. That's the opposite of flying in a movie star to read a page and leave, and it's the first real clue to the idea forming inside Rockstar. Years later, they finally said the quiet part out loud. In 2018, in an interview with Vulture, Dan Houser explained, flat out, why they stopped using name actors. Part of it, sure, was ego. He even brought up the Reynolds mess himself. But he said the bigger reason, the one that mattered most, was immersion. Players get a better sense of the character, he said, using talented actors whose voices you don't already recognize. And once you hear that, you can't unhear it. Think about it. When you hear Trevor Phillips start screaming, you're not sitting there going, oh, that's the actor from that show. You're just with Trevor. But San Andreas has the other version built right into it. Samuel L. Jackson plays Tenpenny, and he's great, but part of your brain always knows it's Samuel L. Jackson. A famous voice sits between you and the character like a pane of glass. You can see the character through it, but the glass never goes away. Part of you stays half aware you're being performed at by someone you've seen somewhere else. An unknown actor drags none of that in with him. There's no other role competing for your attention, so he can disappear into the part completely, and you never get pulled out of it. Being nobody turns out to be the one advantage a movie star literally cannot buy. And there's a second reason, a plainer one, that made this permanent. Rockstar's games got enormous. By Red Dead Redemption 2, the main story script ran about 2,000 pages. Houser said if you stacked all the pages up, side missions and extra dialogue included, the pile would be 8 feet high. 500,000 lines of dialogue. Here's the number that really lands it. That game took around 2,200 days of motion capture. GTA 3 back in 2001 took 5. Rockstar had 1,200 actors on Red Dead 2, 700 of them with speaking lines. Houser said they were the biggest employer of actors in New York, by miles. No A-list movie star is signing up for years of that at a working actor's rate. It just doesn't happen. So immersion is why Rockstar wanted unknowns, and scale is why they couldn't have kept the stars even if they'd wanted to. Here's the twist Rockstar probably didn't plan for. The nobodies didn't just do the job, they got bigger than the movie stars ever were in these games. GTA 4 handed its lead to an unknown named Michael Hollick, and Niko Bellic became one of the most respected characters in the whole series. Then GTA 5 put 3 unknowns front and center. Ned Luke as Michael, Sean Fontino as Franklin, Stephen Ogg as Trevor. None of them were famous when Rockstar cast them. They got famous because of it. And here's the detail that ties this whole thing together. The one I promised you at the top. Sean Fontino, who plays Franklin in GTA 5, is the real-life cousin of young Melee, who played CJ in San Andreas. 2 unknowns, same family, voicing 2 of the most iconic leads Rockstar has ever written, a full decade apart. And it's better than that. Melee has said his own cousin kept it a secret from him that he'd landed the lead in GTA 5, right up until the game shipped. 2 guys from the same bloodline, carrying 2 different eras of GTA, and one didn't even tell the other. And Fontano didn't just play a guy trying to climb out of gang life. He lived that, down to the details. He grew up in Watts. He didn't meet his father until he was 8, and that meeting happened in a hospital after his dad got shot in an armed robbery. He was running with the Crips by his early teens, dealing, moving up. He got shot more than once. People tried to kidnap his family. He later became vice president of a motorcycle club called the Choppers. He put all of it in a 2022 memoir called Game Changer. So when Rockstar needed Franklin, a kid trying to get out of the streets while the streets keep dragging him back, they didn't coach a stranger to fake it. They handed the mic to a man who'd already been shot at, and let him improvise most of his lines because he knew better than any writer how that world actually talks. He wasn't researching Franklin. He'd lived most of it already. Now it's not all clean behind the scenes because that pay grudge Ray Liotta had back in Vice City never actually went away. It just moved down the credits. Michael Hollick, the voice of Niko Bellic, got a flat 6-figure fee for GTA 4 and then watched the game make a fortune, and he wasn't quiet about how that felt. And young Melee, the voice of CJ, went further. He's said flat out he'll never voice CJ again. He called Rockstar, quote, culture vultures, London guys making billions off LA, and said the actors don't see anywhere near their share. He's made peace with the fans since and shows up at conventions now, often standing right next to his cousin Fontino. But the money question he threw out still hangs over the whole thing. Rockstar figured out that voices you don't recognize made their worlds feel real. And some of the people who gave them those voices feel like they got used and left behind. Both of those things are true at the same time. Which brings us to right now, GTA 6 and its 2 leads, Jason Duval and Lucia Caminos, the first woman to ever headline a mainline GTA. As of me writing this, Rockstar still hasn't officially said who's voicing them. But every credible guess points the same direction it's pointed for almost 20 years. Relative unknowns. The one recognizable name fans keep flagging is Stephen Root, the character actor from Office Space and Get Out. The kind of guy you can place the second he opens his mouth, and he's rumored for a supporting drug runner named Brian Heater. Not the lead. That doesn't break the pattern. That is the pattern. Character actors around the edges. Unknowns at the center. Speculation points to Manny L. Perez as Lucia and Dylan Rourke as Jason. Both unconfirmed. Both names you've never heard. Right on schedule.